In this video, you'll learn how to write a claim-based paragraph about a theme in your novel. At this point in the semester, you actually have most of the tools that you need to write a claim-based paragraph. You know how to write a clear and convincing claim. You've written claims about both character inferences and theme. You also know how to select the best piece of evidence to support your claim and how to write 4 to 6 sentences explaining how your evidence supports your claim. You've produced something that looks exactly like this. So what do we need to add to our claim-based paragraph? So we're going to start with our claim. Remember, this is what we're arguing in the paragraph. This is what we need to prove to the reader by the end of the paragraph. After our claim, before our evidence, we need to write 1 to 2 sentences introducing our evidence. In a narrative claim-based paragraph, this is where we're going to explain what is happening in the story right before this quote. We need to help the reader to understand what's even going on in the story so that when they read our evidence, they understand it. They understand what's happening. After our evidence, we'll write our explanation. Remember, this is where we're going to explain our evidence in our own words. We're going to explain how our evidence supports our claim, including looking at specific details in our evidence. By the end of our explanation, the reader should have a strong understanding of both our claim and our evidence. So after our explanation, right, that's the long part. After our explanation, the last thing that we need, it's very easy, we just need a concluding sentence. And our concluding sentence is where we wrap up the ideas in the paragraph, we restate our claim in a new way, and we really give the reader a sense or a feeling of closure after reading our paragraph. They should feel like it's finished. So let's look at my example with 4 Skinny Trees. Remember, my claim was that the theme of 4 Skinny Trees by Sandra Cisneros is that even when life is really hard, you have the strength to persevere. The evidence that you decided was the best piece of evidence to support this claim yesterday was when I am too sad and too skinny to keep keeping. When I am a tiny thing against so many bricks, then it is I look to trees, 4 who grew despite concrete. So if I want to introduce this evidence, I'm going to explain to the reader what's going on in the poem when the little girl says this. So here's my introduction. The little girl in the poem describes how there are moments in her life when life feels really, really hard. In those moments, she looks at 4 trees in her neighborhood. So what I want you to think when you write your introduction is if someone was reading my evidence who had never read my novel, who had never been a part of my book group, what do they need to know to understand my evidence, to understand what's happening in the story? After my evidence, I'm going to write my explanation. And remember, this is 4 to 6 sentences where I really, really explain my evidence and how it supports my claim. So here's my explanation. When life feels too hard, the little girl finds strength in the trees. That's where I'm explaining my evidence in my own words. The trees teach the little girl that you can survive and thrive no matter your circumstances. Trees are supposed to be planted in nutrient-rich soil. These trees are planted in concrete, and yet they survive. Remember, I'm explaining specific details in my evidence. In the same way, the little girl learns she can survive despite the fact that life is hard and sometimes she feels small and helpless. The trees teach her that she has the strength to persevere even in these moments. So after I've really explained my claim and my evidence, I just need a concluding sentence. Remember, I'm going to restate my claim in a new way and make sure that the reader feels a sense of closure by the end of the paragraph. Cisneros reminds us that we are stronger than we realize and can survive even the most difficult situations. Okay, let's look at my second example. We talked about this yesterday as well. Remember, this is from The Kiss of Deception, the novel about the princess who has to save her kingdom. So my claim, remember, was that the theme of Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson is that you are stronger than you realize. And the evidence that you selected as the best piece of evidence was my steps faltered. You'll always be you, Leah. You can't run from that. The voice was so clear it seemed that Walter was walking at my side, speaking his words again in greater earnest. You are strong, Leah. You have always been stronger than you know. So what does my reader need to know? If you had never read this book, which most of you hadn't, what did I tell you yesterday that helped you understand this evidence? Well, I told you that Leah had been prophesied about, right? To save her kingdom. She was the one that had to save her kingdom. I also told you that Walter was her brother and had recently died. So here's my introduction. Leah has realized that she is the one prophesied about in the book of Morgan. Yet she doesn't believe that she is strong enough. In this moment, she hears her brother's words. I'm introducing my evidence in a way that helps you to understand what is happening in the story when this evidence comes about, when the narrator says this. So now I need my explanation. Remember, my explanation was where I'm going to really explain my evidence in my own words and how it supports my claim. So I'm going to start by restating my evidence in a new way, or in my own words. Leah knows that her kingdom needs her, yet she doesn't feel ready. She wants to believe that her interpretation of the Book of Morgan is wrong and that someone else is supposed to save them. Her steps faltered, right? This is where I'm going to really talk about particular details. Her steps faltered because she knows that she is right, and that it is her job. Walter's words remind her that she is stronger than she could ever imagine. There is a hidden strength in her that has always been there. Throughout the novel, Leah learns that inner strength is powerful. It is what is needed to save her country. So remember in my explanation, I just want to go back and look at the definition of explanation. I'm going to explain my evidence in my own words and how it supports my claim. I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to really explain specific details or clues in my evidence. And I'm going to make sure that the reader has a really clear understanding of both my claim and my evidence. So I do that here. It's really important that I talk about both, how her steps faltered and how that shows that she doesn't necessarily want to take on this prophecy, that she isn't sure that she's strong enough. And I'm going to talk about the detail of that always, right? She's always been stronger than she knows, in learning that she is stronger than she realizes, that she has that inner strength. So here's my concluding sentence. Pearson reminds us, and remember I haven't really talked about this, but notice that I'm using the author's last name sometimes, and I did this both in my concluding paragraph with Cisneros, right, the author of Four Skinny Trees, as well as Pearson, the author of Kiss of Deception. Pearson reminds us that in each of us is a strength that is needed to do what is right. I'm restating my claim in a new way, and I'm really making sure that the reader has a sense of closure at the end of my claim-based paragraph. So here's your job. You're going to write a claim-based paragraph about a theme of your book. You already wrote your claim yesterday, and hopefully before you left yesterday or at the beginning of the period today, you had a chance to come up with 3 pieces of evidence to support your claim. What you're going to do now is you're going to choose the best piece of evidence that you worked on yesterday with your group that supports your claim. The theme of blank by blank is. So now what you need to do, once you've chosen your evidence, you're going to write an introduction to evidence. You're going to write your 4 to 6 sentence explanation. And you're going to finish it all up with a concluding statement. You've got this. I believe in you. Enjoy!